for journalists in the country. Bring you that story during the bulletin. A member of the Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, Justice Lee Adubo, filed an application for injunction at the High Court seeking to prevent newly elected GJA President Albert Jomfo from being sworn in. In the suit, Justice Adubo contends that the bribery allegations leveled against Mr. Jomfo should have been investigated before the elections were held. The injunction was served on the officials of the GJA on Wednesday, a day before the swearing-in of the newly elected executives. Justice Lee Adubo joins me for his reaction. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The swearing-in came off despite the injunction. Your reaction, please.
What did you say?
I'm saying the swearing-in came off despite the injunction, and I'm seeking your reaction to that.
So that was lawless on their part. When the court gives an order, as a law-abiding citizen, you have to obey the court's orders. And if the GJA is a serious organization, we represent the conscience of society, we mirror society. And so we need to have a very strong moral outlook ourselves to be able to continue to hold ourselves out as those who, call people to order, people who actually hold others accountable. But here we are, the High Court gives an order, and the one who seeks to lead the Journalists Association of this country, how is this of the DJ? And this kind of impunity is what we are seeking to purge the GJA of. And now he has demonstrated clearly that indeed our association is rescued from such people.
Justice, you prayed the court to declare the election null and void. You also wanted the court to issue an order for fresh elections. What series led to this decision?
Yes, so like as you read and as you rightly said, there was a petition against one of the candidates in the election. Now the petition borders on bribery and inducement for votes, etc. Now, and our constitution says that if such findings are made against anyone, the fellow is not fit to stand for elections. So when allegations came, the DJA should have gone ahead to investigate and then establish, the veracity, of that allegation. And then if, as the constitution says, if the fellow is found culpable, then he is debarred from standing for election. But we did not do that. What rather happened was that 3 days to elections, the chairman of the elections committee stepped down. And then we went ahead to hold the election. And the fellow who, the petition has gone to the DJA against is the one who wins the election. So what are we telling Ghanaians? That our presidency can be bought, with money? That's the reason we're asking the court to announce the elections and order investigations into these allegations.
I understand the chairman of the Western Region chapter also raised some concerns. Why do you think issues weren't taken up from there, and then it had to take you to, go and file for an injunction a day before the sworn-in was to be done?
Yeah, so this is the reason we are also in court, because when naming a person done, the then chairman of the Western Regional chapter petitions the elections committee against one of the contestants, then it should be seen as a very serious issue, as it have been dealt with by the GJA before the elections. After elections have been put off for more than 1.5 years. So maybe 1 more month to look into this issue would not have been too much to do. And that is the reason we are also seeking the court's intervention.
So aside from that, what kind of reforms would you want would you want to even recommend to the GJA for a united front?
Yes. So what we want to do is that, first of all, we want to redeem the image of the GJA in the eyes of right-thinking Ghanaians, for them to know that our association cannot be infiltrated by influence peddlers, people who want media to be used, as their PR, image builders, and etc. No, that is not what GJA stands for. GJA stands for journalists, of the generality of journalists. And our work is to, be the conscience of society, mirror society, such that where there are, wrongs being done, we expose. Where there are commendations required, we commend. So it is not to be playing to anybody's whims and caprices. That is not what GJA is for. GJA is there to protect the ordinary journalist, the everyday journalist who is doing his work, rightly. This is what GJA stands for. It is not to be hijacked by, influencers, businesses, politicians, etc. No, GJA is there for the journalist, not any other thing. So we want to redeem the image, and then after that, we reform. There is a need for reformation. But we know who is qualified to be a member of GJA, who is qualified to stand for election. Somebody cannot just come 3 days ago and then he quickly becomes an executive member. No, these things need to be streamlined. Yes.
Finally, I would want to know, was the association served with the injunction that you filed? Were they served?
Yes, they were served.
Right.
James received the application yesterday at the press center. So they were duly served.
Who is James?
That is why you will see that the outgoing president was conspicuously absent at the so-called swearing in. Yes.
Right. So you say James. Who is James?
James is at the press center.
Okay, all right.
He's an employee of GJA.
All right, thank you so much, Justice. This is a developing story, and so definitely we'll be coming back to you as and when we have new developments and updates. And that was a member of the GJA, Justice Adubo. Today in history, exactly 38 years ago, on 30th June 1982, 3 High Court judges as well as a retired army officer were murdered in cold blood at the Bundasi military range in the Accra Plains. Their crime was that all the 3 had adjudicated on cases in which they had ordered the release of persons who were sentenced to long-term imprisonment during the rule of the AFRC. The commemoration of their deaths on Martyrs' Day is an appropriate occasion to examine the role of judges and lawyers in the defense of the rule of law.
Justices Fred Pokusa Akodie, Cecilia Grant Ado, Kwejwe J. Japon, and Major Sam Ahwa, a retired military officer, were abducted during curfew hours and murdered at the Bundasi military range 50 kilometers east of Accra on June 30, 1982. On the night of 30th June 1982, Mrs. Ado, who was nursing a child, and the others were abducted from their homes. Following intense pressure on the late former President Rawlings and the PNDC, a special investigation board was formed by the government to investigate the murders of the 3 High Court judges and the retired army officer. 5 people, Joachim Amate Kwe, then 32 years, Lance Corporal Samuel Kweku Amedeka, 27, Lance Corporal Michael Senya, 21, Johnny Jandu, 23, and Tony Tekpo, 24, were tried by a National Public Tribunal chaired by Mr. George Ajikum. The 3 High Court judges were martyred and are remembered annually by the Judicial Service on the anniversary of their deaths, called Martyrs' Day. The memorial to the martyrs of the rule of law, which includes statues of all 3 murdered justices, stands in front of the Supreme Court of Ghana buildings today. 。
Today is indeed 40 years since the death of the judges. Now, on the first day of the Rise Ghana demonstration, the police arrested 29 people after dispersing a violent anti-expense protest in Accra with tear gas. Hundreds of demonstrators had been marching in the streets of the capital since morning. In the middle of the afternoon, about 100 demonstrators tried to deviate from the official route of the demonstration. It turned chaotic. Some police officers, protesters and other persons sustained some injuries. Mr. Bernard Mona, leading member, Arise Ghana Movement, joins us on phone. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. We are trying to get Mr. Bernard Mona on the phone lines to give us updates about the people who have been arrested, those who were injured, and the developments so far. But before then, let's take the story. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Jinapor, has refuted claims that funds realized to raise the Apiati Township from dust has been diverted for another cause, the National Cathedral. He assured that the sod will soon be cut for work to begin on the model community with 124 housing units. Mr. Jinapor visited Apiati ahead of the formal event.
Model Apiati housing units will consist of 1 to 7 bedrooms, all to be completed within a year. With the designs, survey works and plotting of the sites complete, actual construction begins in July. Also ready is the master plan for the reconstruction. Symbolically, tents which hitherto housed affected persons were decommissioned to end that era and mark the beginning of another phase. The reconstruction team says basic amenities such as water, electricity and others will soon be functional. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Jinapor, entreated the people to support government and the working team to deliver.
Yango kase mrantie emedo ha kakra na yemfa block nsi wo yeso sika hena mo de be maye anase yenko tu amna kakra bi wa ha yeso ye de ya amna no ye nyese ye moa ye nyese dabi sa kasa no mamma ne maye ntim mamma ma ya bra we dan ye si bia ye nton edan ne mo bia sebe e ba be japade amam ena ebe ye moa so mo de mo japade a mo betire mo ba betire mo. For the
welfare and well-being of the people, Mr. Jinapor presented assorted food items, including bags of rice, cooking oil, sugar, estimated at 10,000 Ghana cedis to the people.
Finance Minister Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta says investing in the country's agricultural sector holds the key to making Ghana food sufficient. At the launch of the agribusiness public-private partnership platform, Mr. Ofori-Atta emphasized that the plan is expected to increase productivity, ensure a thriving agribusiness environment, increase investment in the sector, improve terms of trade, and increase credit.
The plan for the agribusiness public-private partnership platform is to bring about sustainable dialogue among all stakeholders, address bottlenecks, ensure institutional enforcement of standards and regulations, and engender changes in the incoherent policies and multiplication of efforts that impede the sector's productivity and competitiveness. Its overall objective is to provide a forum to engage government institutions and private sector participants to help identify and resolve critical obstructions in agricultural financing in the agribusiness space. The program was designed by the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, Mr. Kwesi Boy, said despite the significant progress of the project, a well-structured plan engaging all the relevant stakeholders to share ideas is prime. A Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. L.C. Ado-Awaji, said the platform will make agricultural financing less cumbersome and improve on the sector's transformation through increased capital inflows into critical value chains.
Food inflation now stands at 30.1% as of May 2022. significantly up from 5.4% in May 2021. The more we look at the data on inflation, we see that food inflation is accelerating relative to non-food inflation. Now, the extent to which we're able to tackle the food supply side constraints will directly impact inflation and the cost of living in Ghana.
The Minister for Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, said mobilizing private sector financing for agriculture will be critical to the success of government initiatives such as One District, One Factory.
As we contemplate the effects of the pandemic and the Russian invasion of Ukraine war on supply chains and food security, I believe this is also the time to honestly confront the challenges across agricultural value chains and leverage targeted initiatives such as GESEL to create the radical progress that is needed for us to re-establish our dignity and be able to export to the rest of the continent.
The Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending Project is part of efforts to help resolve challenges in the agricultural value chain and provide sustainable solutions.
The Canadian High Commissioner, Madam Kati Saba, has commended the Ashanti Regional Directorate of the Ghana Health Service and health staff in the region for maintaining essential health and nutrition services and enhancing the infection and prevention control methods in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. She described Ghana's COVID-19 response as a success story. Madam Saba was in the Ashanti region to observe the accomplishments made in 2021 in health and nutrition as part of the COVID-19 response project undertaken by the Canadian government.
COVID-19 has had a significant impact on the Ashanti region, an area that consistently reported the second highest number of reported cases. Essential services were temporarily disrupted, and the income of communities and families was significantly impacted. In addition to the pandemic, the Ashanti region bears the burden of neonatal mortality, which stands at 52 per 1,000 live births, and under 5 mortality rate, which is 79 per 1,000 live births. In a bid to strengthen the capacity of health workers and ensure quality health care for mothers, newborns, and young children, the Canadian government partnered the Ghana Health Service to undertake the COVID-19 response project in the Ashanti region. Her first port of call was at the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council in Kumasi, where she had a brief interaction with the regional minister, Mr. Simon Osei Mensah. Madam Saba said Canada has contributed $10 million as part of a strategic partnership with the government of Ghana and the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, to strengthen health, nutrition and sanitation services for children and women, especially among vulnerable groups in the Ashanti region. She also visited the Suntreso Government Hospital in Kumasi, where she interacted with staff undertaking COVID-19 vaccination at the antenatal clinic. At the Ajuso Government Hospital, she joined officials of the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, and the Ashanti Regional Directorate of the Ghana Health Service to officially open a newborn intensive care unit. Prior to his intervention, the neonatal intensive care unit was operating as a 1-cubicle unit in the maternity block of the hospital. The Canadian High Commissioner, Madam Kati Saba, said her country's support under the COVID-19 Health Response Project will improve access to health care amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
As we know, babies do not stop being born in a pandemic. The overstretched health system, coupled with decreased visits to health clinics, meant that mothers, babies, and children did not have access to critical and timely care. Canada was seized by this reality and sought to collaborate with the Ghana Health Service and UNICEF to ease the burden of reduced access to services by investing in the strengthening of health systems.
The Ashanti Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tenkrine, gave an update on the COVID-19 situation in the region.
As at now, we have close to 2 million people vaccinated with the first dose and about 1.5 million with the second dose. When we put both the first and then the second dose together, we are getting coverage close to about 80%. But we need to move on because the work is not over. We still have
The UNICEF representative in Ghana, Anne-Claire Dufay, acknowledged the tremendous impact of the COVID-19 health response project within 1 year of its implementation.
Let's now focus on some parliamentary activities. Members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Environment, Science and Technology have paid a working visit to the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission in Accra to assess the performance of the commission and also see how best the legislature can help them live up to their mandate.
As part of Parliament's oversight responsibility for ministries, departments and its agencies, the Select Committee on Environment, Science and Technology visited the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, GAEC. The commission was established by an Act of Parliament to specifically regulate all matters related to safe, peaceful uses of atomic energy. The founding Act, Act 204 of 1963, has been superseded by Act 588 of 2000, which allows the Commission to commercialize its research, products and development. The Parliamentary Select Committee interacted with management and staff of the Commission. They were there to see how the Commission was faring and complying with environmental and safety regulations, as well as acquaint themselves with the operations, ongoing research and challenges confronting the Commission.
We pay national participation costs in the region of, say, 5,000 euros, and we get equipment worth over 500,000 euros. And all these equipments they buy for us for research, they get stuck. Now we have a lot of them at their warehouses over there. Because of the tax issues, they are not able to. The budget given to the Atomic Energy Commission has been slashed. So there is no way we can go and make justification that our budget can contain.
The chairperson of the Select Committee, Mr. Emmanuel Mafo, assured the Commission of Parliament's support.
I would like us to have a copy of the standard agreement, and then we can look into the law and see where the conflict arises, and then maybe we can put up an urgent question and ask the Minister for Finance to come, or Minister of Environment to come and answer some questions. Perhaps we should have exempted some sectors of the economy from this long process.
Later, members of the committee inspected some of the Commission's activities. Rachel Quarty, GBC News, Accra.
The newly elected national executives of the Ghana Journalists Association have been sworn into office after the tussle of a court injunction. GJA President Mr. Albert Jomfo says his administration will work to improve salaries of journalists and review the welfare scheme for journalists in the country.
I pledge to dedicate myself to the service of all journalists. In recent times, the GJA appears to have fallen out of favor with some journalists and members of the public. They are not happy about the fact that the association has been inactive and the lack of urgency in addressing the needs of members and the general public. Professor, I wish to declare before this August audience that today marks the dawn of a new era in the life of the GJA. The followers you saw in the past, that is the initial lack of urgency, welfare problems, among others. You shall see them no more. This is an era that offers hope and promises genuine solidarity with all journalists in Ghana.
will give you our support to deliver on those issues. Key amongst them is the unionization drive that would lead to at least a guaranteed minimum wage for journalists. If you have any experience doing research on salaries and remunerations of media personnel, you will ask yourself why. And your plan to train, offer professional development, and secure the economic base of journalists is something that has resonated so powerfully with all of us here, our hearts and minds.
And in Bogatanga, elected officers of the Ghana Journalists Association in the Upper East region have been sworn into office. They were sworn in by the Upper East Regional Supervisor and High Court Judge, Justice Charles J. Wilson, at a short ceremony.
Of my official duties.
The new executives are William Jalula, Chairman, Albert Sori, Secretary, Fatima Anafu Astanga, Vice Chairperson, and Joshua Asa, Treasurer. The rest are Samuel Akapule, Osman Muntawakilo, Ebu Bruce Kwanzaa, and Albert Azongo. The President of GJA, William Jalula, expressed his gratitude for the opportunity given them to serve the association. He expressed the need to work to increase the membership drive in the region.
Over the years, the association hasn't been so attractive to members or journalists, and as a result of that, our number is not encouraging, and so we are looking at working to make the association very attractive to journalists who otherwise are not members to join. We are also looking at the fact that the association in the region has no office, and so we have to work to have an office and for administrative activities of the association.
The new set of regional executives would serve the association for the next 3 years. Petergingrich reporting for GBC News.
A private legal practitioner, lawyer Benjamin Antiedu, joins us on phone. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam.
Right. There was supposed to be an injunction on the swearing-in ceremony of the GJA executives-elect, but still the ceremony went on anyway. What would be your view about that?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I have taken the trouble to inquire whether indeed there has been an injunction on the swearing-in of the president-elect of GJA. So to that extent, I'm unable to, say or agree with you that there has been an injunction that has gone ahead to do the swearing-in.
If I understand you correctly,
if you have seen an injunctive order from the court, what I understand is that there has been a substantive suit challenging the election of the new GJA president, and then as part of the release that is asked for, the injunctive order is also included, but I have not seen an injunctive order from the court. That by putting it in the suit or in the writ does not amount to being granted an injunction, not at all.
Kindly educate us, if one should file an injunction, what is the procedure until, it is being upheld? Take us through the procedure from the time somebody files an injunction.
Thank you. A restraining order by the court to do something or refrain from doing something.
Right.
So when you have a substantive suit, as in this case, that there's a suit challenging the election of the new GJA president, then as you also file a fresh motion for injunction. Usually this would have been application where you go to the school or establish a prima facie case that the election is unlawful, and then the court to grant you that injunction. So the substantive suit must be lodged, and then the application for injunction will be also moved before the court, and then if the court will grant you that order, so the order is specific. Involved with the GDA president, the court will definitely, in a clear term, say that you are not supposed to be sworn in or make yourself available to be sworn in on special and so date. And then the officials of DJA and then all other parties will be so restrained. So that is the way to go. That is the document or the order I have not cited yet in all the regions that I have come across. And you also see in most of the regions you have the strength, and so there must be some misconstruction of what has taken place.
Sir, we just spoke to the plaintiff, and he tells us that he served one Gabriel or so at the GJA office. So what could that have been?
That could have been the rate. The written statement of claim that were filed. That could have been it. You see, it's a little strange that you can see from the rate that an interlocutory injunction was anticipated. But that is not the way we do it. But in any case, there should have been a motion before the court for the court to hear the particular application for injunction. And then the court will still go ahead, if it's so minded, to grant you. So apart from the substantive suit, which definitely after being lodged, have to be served on the defendant, you need that application for standard, of stopping the process. So that might be different from an injunction.
So now that the defendant has been sworn in, what more can the plaintiff do, or that is the end of the situation?
Not at all. Not at all. This one is comparable to the national election. When a president or a person is elected into office or the president and is being challenged, you can be sworn in, but the court's power is not stored at all. Okay. At any point in time, that challenge can be mounted, and the court can hear the matter, and if there is a justification for nullification of the election, to be so done. Remember what the High Court in Cape Coast did in the case of the member of parliament whose election was challenged.
Thank you so much.
That does not tie the hands of the court at all.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Lawyer Benjamin Antiedo is a private legal practitioner. The minority in Parliament has raised concerns over an attempt by the government to relocate the American Park, supposedly the cost of $35 million to the Ashanti region. Last year, government announced a decision to relocate the Ameri plant located at Aboazi in the Western region to Kumasi in the Ashanti region to help stabilize the national grid. Addressing the media in Parliament, the ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee, Mr. John Jinapo, called on the government to transfer the Ameri plant to the Volta River Authority as was originally planned.
We are being informed, and we had a committee meeting, that VRA has been requested by government to enter into an agreement with Miscellaneous for pre-financing of the relocation of the Ameri plant to Kumasi. You would recall that the Ameri plant was brought into this country by President Mahama and the NDC government under a BOOT agreement. That agreement has since expired, and the plant has been transferred to the government of Ghana. We wish to state as a minority that we are vehemently opposed to this whole idea of signing on with Miscellaneous and spending a whopping 35 million, which translates to over 280 million cedis, we call on government as a matter of agency to transfer that plant to the Volta River Authority as was originally envisaged. The Volta River Authority has the capacity to handle and manage that plant. This must be done without any encumbrance. We would use every parliamentary process to ensure that this illegitimate way of trying to appropriate the Ameri plant, cronies, will not be tolerated.
A private health sector summit has ended in Accra with a resolve to accelerate post-pandemic responses to achieve universal health coverage. The summit also took a critical look at the public-private partnership policy vis-à-vis other healthcare policies, sustainable domestic financing, and as well as improving the quality of national data to generate wealth. It was held under the auspices of the Private Health Sector Alliance of Ghana. A report by Sarah Fori.
Private health institutions are vital to government's quest to attain universal health coverage. They are said to provide about 25% of the nation's healthcare services. Through partnerships with the Ministry of Health, Ghana is a beneficiary of global initiatives such as Access Initiative, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Africa Health Diagnostic Platform, among others. Financing being pivotal to public-private partnership, the plenary sessions held during the summit considered possible areas where the private sector designs, builds, operates and maintains the health facilities, while the public sector takes charge of the provision of core medical services to patients. Again, accessing healthcare through the National Health Insurance Scheme or private healthcare insurance packages were also discussed, essentially because sustainable healthcare financing is a big challenge requiring private sector efforts to address. Panelists also talked about the value of data, the legal implications regarding data usage, and how it can be maximized to generate wealth and improve healthcare delivery. Leveraging on social responsibility budgets on health to support big budget health expenditure also featured prominently in the conference. To accelerate Ghana's universal health coverage efforts, the summit also considered digital health technologies, the role of the private sector in sustaining vaccine sufficiency, and exploring the use of alternative medicine. The summit was supported by the UNFPA, USAID, Health Systems Strengthening Accelerator, and GIZ, among others. Sarah Fori, GBC News, Accra.
We have updates from the world of business in a bit.
Good afternoon. We bring you business updates now. My name is Morris Ogbetse. Now, foreign ministers of 15 member states of ECOWAS are in Accra to prepare the grounds for the 61st ordinary session of the Authority of the ECOWAS Heads of State and Government on Sunday, July 3, 2022. Addressing her colleagues, Ghana's Foreign Minister, Madame Shalia Okoboche, says the way out to withstand the shocks from the Russia-Ukraine crisis on ECOWAS is to continue to deploy strategies of the sub-region's commodities.
The economic front, we must maintain the course of growth, intensify our trade, promote the free movement of people and goods, turn to a digital economy with poles of industrial development, value addition of our agricultural products, and reinforce our human capital base acting together to pool our resources to cushion the effects of the crisis, as well as strengthen our unity and cohesion. This session will allow us to examine several reports on the operation of our community institutions, particularly the interim report of the President of the Commission, the reports of the Administration and Finance Committee, the Auditor General, the Audit Committee, and sectoral memoranda for decisions, endorsement, and
Good afternoon. It's still business. Now, the call on government to reach out to the IMF for an extended credit facility is gaining currency this week, with economists for and against the bailout advancing their argument. In the midst of the debate, the ordinary Ghanaian is concerned about the implication of the bailout on social interventions such as the free SHS and subsidies on fertilizer. We have on the line Dr. Paul Appiah-Kunedu to give us his thoughts on this particular development. Good afternoon to you, Doc.
Good afternoon, Maurice.
Right, and so the last time we went to the IMF was in 2015. Will you say that it was worth it, and should we go another time this time?
If you look at the critical points that we went to the IMF in 2015, it was to restore debt sustainability and to rationalize government expenditure, especially when it comes to increases in the public sector, wages and salaries, and then recruiting additional employees. I think currently we are still facing the same challenges, for which reason in the short to medium term, I think it is very important for government to resort to an IMF bailout at this point. First, to restore debt sustainability. We have borrowed to a point where our debt levels are becoming unsustainable. And if you look at the first quarter, interest on the existing debt was a little above 10 billion Ghana cedis, which is a little above 60% of total. If you add the wage bill, we are almost exceeding 10% of total tax revenue as grants, which is clearly unsustainable.
Right. So,
and without an IMF bailout at this point, it is very difficult for government to get out of it.
Doc, those who speak against going to the IMF at this point say that we know what to do to get out of this crisis. It's the same solutions that the IMF is going to recommend to us. Why don't we do what the IMF is going to tell us anyway now instead of going to the IMF?
That is the point. But clearly, if you look at our fiscal history in the last 20 years, governments have shown that we lack the fiscal discipline to rationalize our expenditures. And so in 2003, under the HIPIT program, we went for an IMF bailout. But by 2009, we still sank into the same situation. We had to restore back to an IMF bailout in 2009. Then in 2015, we were back to the same situation. We went back to an IMF bailout. 6 years afterwards, in 2022, we are still discussing an IMF bailout. So the same problem keeps showing up. And what this means is that our government lacks that responsibility, that resolve to rationalize our expenditures, and also to adapt innovative means to increase our revenues.
Right. So
so we keep going to the IMF.
Right.
But
So
in the long term, I can tell you that IMF is not a solution to the problem that we face.
So, Doc,
as a country.
Finally, before I let you go, Doc, two things the IMF will tell you to do is to cut expenditure and increase revenue. That certainly has some implications on social interventions. Are you not concerned about that?
I'm concerned when it comes to issue of putting a cap on employment in the public sector. But what we must note is that we cannot eat our cake and have it. What has happened over the years is that government has up to the wage bill without any significant increase in public sector output. When I go to government departments and agencies, ministry, there are 2 deputies, sometimes 3 deputies. But some of these ministries and agencies We even need just a minister with a chief director assistant. We don't need 2 people assistant. Duplication of functions. I mean, things like NAPCO, we've had the Youth Employment Agency. We engage the youth in directing traffic. This is something the police can do. If we're engaging the youth, let's say in agri, and we have vast land, arable land, that we can engage the youth in agri production and also in agro processing in a way that will add something to the real sector, that will increase output, that will limit our import of food and critical needs. But we resort to window dressing and artificial addressing of some of our problems, which keeps sustaining the same problem that we've had over the years.
Thank you very much.
Until we make that resolve to rationalize government expenditures, to make sure that we have value for money in the people we employ in the public sector, to make sure we increase public sector productivity, to make sure that there is value for money in any government expenditure that goes out there. And then also to make critical attempts to increase government revenue.
I'm afraid we have to wrap up here. That's what time will allow us. Dr. Paul Apiakwadu is an economist there. He thinks that it's time for us to go to the IMF. Let's go to the Ghana Stock Exchange, where the exchange has listed gold mining firm Asante Gold Corporation onto the Ghana Stock Exchange. The listing is the first in 2 years and comes at a time when the exchange is witnessing negative returns. Which arrangers and sponsors of the Asante Gold deal, the GSC has not seen any listing in the past 2 years until Asante Gold listed. The Ghanaian Gold Corporation is listing 350 million shares with a market capitalization of 2.8 billion cedis. According to Asante Gold, the decision is born out of calls by local investors to have some participation in the company due to its contribution to Ghana's revenue stream. Non-executive chairman of Asante Gold, Mr. Douglas McCurry, stated the listing complements the company's listings in Canada and in Germany and provides Ghanaian shareholders and potential new investors the opportunity to invest and trade their shares locally in Ghana. Chief Executive of Asante Gold, Mr. Dave Anthony, applauded Ghanaian investors for their trust in the company and for acquiring significant shares.
Our company, as already mentioned, is 50% owned by private Ghanaian investors and Ghanaian institutions. We're managed from Accra, and 99.5% of our employees are Ghanaian.
Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Mr. Eko Afedi, noted that the GSC in the medium term will use the new local content policy to get more gold refinery companies to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange. The initial listing price of Asante Gold Corporation is 8 cedis 87 pesos. We go to Netbank Forex market and bring you updates on how the cedis perform. We also bring you updates from the commodities market. We see the price of gold going up on the market.